Lakshmi, you're on mute.
I was just asking Aparna if we are still not started yet.
Yeah. Lakshmi, we got the cue.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Restart India to talk about real challenges and real conversations. This is a very special Independence Day Eve on August 14th because this has been a tough year for most of us. And what we want to do is really pay homage to the people who've been the most resilient and the most optimistic throughout this. So I'm always interested in telling stories. So on behalf of Inc. and Muthoot Blue, I want to welcome all of you with a small story of a person who takes two uh, pots of water from one end to the other, carrying it through a stick. So one pot has a hole that keeps leaking water all over, while the other one gets in full to the other end. So the pot which has a hole tells the other part that you're so lucky because your water gets all the way to the end and it feeds everyone there, whereas half of my water is leaked all the way and only half of it is getting there, so I'm not of as much service as you. But the other part tells to this part what you're not seeing, because it's leaking all along, is that it's been giving rise to a lot of small plants all along the way. Instead of just carrying it all the way to the end and feeding one group of people, you are actually, giving life all along the way. So the point is to make this world run, we need the large businesses, we need the small businesses, we need the nano businesses, we need businesses that keep us alive. And today is a day we want to celebrate the nano, the micro, the small entrepreneurs, all of you out there who've had the most resilience through this period. And I really want to say that we have a great lineup for you, a lot of question and answers. If you go to Restart India, there's an opportunity for you to ask your questions, have mentors, do what's right for you. And today we have two stalwarts who are here along with me to answer any questions you may have so that we can have a great interactive session. Please feel free to send your questions and online as well as on YouTube. So I have two people here. One is Thomas John Muthoot, who is the head of uh, uh, Muthoot Pappachan Group. And we also have with us Jamshed Daboo, who has an incredible experience with large businesses, franchisees, small businesses, from hotels to many, many businesses. So someone who can answer questions across disciplines. So I'm really thrilled to have both of them on board to present to you the first live interaction of Restart India with a special focus on small and medium businesses. On to you, Johnny.
Thank you, Lakshmi. That was a very inspiring story you had, as always. And we are very much excited and thrilled to have a partner like Ink Talks. And Lakshmi has been always a person who inspires and tells stories. I am sure the collaboration with Ink Talks and Lakshmi would be very fruitful for the Muthoot Pappachan group, and also for all the people who will come on the platform and all the mentors. I'm sure this collaboration would help everyone. So just a background to how we got into the Restart India. We, during the lockdown, reached out to many of our customers, and in the conversation with our many customers, what we found that they are not much worried about the money or the funding that they require, but more than that, they wanted guidance, mentoring, and to understand from us where are we heading, because this is a has not happened. This kind of a calamity has not happened in any of our lifetime, and there is no past reference to this. So everybody was in a mood of uncertainty, and they always wanted to know from us uh, many things beyond funding and finance. So we thought of launching this Restart India website. Initially, it was a very small thought, and then later on, the thinking got bigger and bigger, and that is when we reached out to Lakshmi, and Inc. collaborated with us. And I'm sure this collaboration and this platform would benefit a lot of people and a lot of small businesses, micro, nano businesses, and MSMEs. This is something which is now become very relevant for India. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Lakshmi, you're on mute.
Yeah, and sorry, I was on mute. I apologize. So thank you, Johnny. And I thought we could have a bit of a conversation among all three of us to answer some of the questions. And I just want to say that we are very, very thankful that we talked about this, Johnny, that the existence of nano and micro retailers is what kept us going through these last 3 months. If the corner fruit wala or the store or if they weren't there, I don't think we could have survived. And so it's really thanks to them. And as I said, that we have our senior mentor, Mr. Jamshed Daboo, here today. And so just a little bit of a background. As I said, he's been to through many sectors, but to be more specific, and he's an independent advisor to consumer retail and hospitality space. And last thing he's been with Trent Hypermarket Private Limited at Tata and Tesco Enterprise. And he's been with Tata Administrative Services, which is when we went to business school, we said that one of the toughest things to get into, it was like every business school graduate's dream to get into TAS, so he's gotten into TAS in 1986, and he's been with Tata Group for nearly 34 years. So prior to Trent, he was the head of consumer and finance and advisory business at Tata Capital. He was also the COO of various divisions of Indian Hotels and CEO at Tata Quality Management. As I said, he's a through and through Tata man, and thanks, Jamshed, for your time today. And I mean, what a few months it has been, the last few months, So I feel like the past few months have taught us the real relevance of small businesses. They're more needed for our survival than we have ever known. So you and maybe after you, Johnny, both of you can give your thoughts about the importance of small businesses.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, John. This has been a fantastic initiative, and I'm so privileged to be part of this journey, as it were, as we restart the nation and get it ticking. And I think that the target audience that we've chosen is, in fact, the right target audience for us to kickstart this journey. Throughout my career, and certainly in the last 10 years as I was heading a food retail business, I had the utmost respect for the small retailer. And this respect has been born out from the fact that time and again we have seen that the ability to service customer needs in a hyper-local environment is unsurpassed. And that ability to service customer needs is based on a bedrock of a very good, strong, intuitive understanding of what customers want, really want,
Yeah.
backed by an agility and a nimbleness to keep modifying their business model as the customer journey changes. We used to often wonder as to how, with our great stores and great prices and great variety, people would still continue shopping with smaller retailers, smaller only in size and not in quality. Quality is as good as anything else. And to my mind, I think it is these very qualities which always existed, which came out into the fore in these troubled times. And it is that same resilience and agility which was displayed by them, which actually not only saw them through, but certainly saw all of us. And I think that they have played a great service to the nation and to their communities by standing tall amongst all the sort of chaos and concern. That So I, for one, have the deepest of respect and admiration for the role that they have played and continue to play in the growing Indian economy or the restarting of India. Yeah?
Johnny, you deal with them on a day-to-day basis. So
See,
can you chime in on this?
yeah. So what I just want to add to what Jamshed was saying, see, they are the ones who were the last mile supplier for all the essentials. They were the suppliers. If you look at the MSMEs, which also uh, were operating during the lockdown, many of these essentials, uh, food processing and related MSMEs were small enterprises, micro and small enterprises were functional. What we also have to see at this point of time is that uh, after agri sector, they are the largest employer in the country. So during this lockdown, these people, these micro enterprises could continue to provide employment for a large section of people when many of them went without jobs. These enterprises continue to provide jobs, continue to provide the income of these people. So I think this is a very important segment and sector for India, and the relevance of these sector has uh, really been felt by every citizen in the country now.
Yeah. I was giving a talk at a conference recently, and I was telling them that there are over 60 million small entrepreneurs, and it was an American audience. So I was telling them if you take the entire Pacific Northwest from Vancouver, British Columbia down to, California, and you add Alaska, all the other things of Montana, things extended Pacific Northwest, it's 60 million people. So that's how many small entrepreneurs we have in India, just in one sector. So Jamshed, from if you look at the large uh, industry trends in retail, especially now there are mall shutdowns and large shops shutdowns and all that stuff. So what can we learn about the small entrepreneurs, especially in what ways the behavior of the buyers changing? So what are some of the tips we can give to the small entrepreneurs, especially with the absence of big businesses?
See, I think the, this entire period has, in many ways, for many kinds of retail, changed the paradigm rather completely.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that anyone who's in the retail space can recognize this shifting paradigm so that they can respond effectively. I think the first shift that has taken place is the need to have a very clear approach to digital.
Mhm.
Now, digital is not heavy systems and hardware. Digital starts with being a mindset,
Mhm.
and it is essentially a way of life in business. And I think increasingly, customer expectations would be that, irrespective of the size of the enterprise, the digitization of the enterprise is a must because customers will increasingly pay importance to digital interaction and digital transaction.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is that customers, due to various reasons, are now expecting what I would call 360-degree convenience, which is that I need to be able to access products and services the way I choose and not the way the producer of the product and services choose to give it to me. And I think small retailers who are closer to customers and therefore more nimble can actually leverage this quite a lot. To my mind, there was a time when retail was driven by price, and I'm talking about retail in the middle and lower middle section of the price band. I mean, food retail, affordable apparel retail, and so on and so on. I think it was driven a lot by price, and therefore people were willing to go the extra yard of inconvenience in order to get a better price. I think that paradigm has changed completely. And smaller retailers who are perhaps, in a way, sort of getting affected with this price drop in the environment can now hope that the price drop will not be the driver for consumers to go into this 360-degree convenience that we are offering. So that's the other trend that I see quite clearly coming through in retail. Whether you're a large retailer or a small retailer, in fact, large retailers in many ways will have to act like small retailers if they want to succeed. Now, digitization is not only customer facing. I think as retail will have to make sure that they're using digitization end to end. And it's already beginning. I mean, government is opening up, platforms are coming up, and the idea is that retailers and small companies need to get on this faster, sooner rather than later. So that's the other big trend that I see. And the third trend is towards trust. I think it's customers need to trust the source, be it the retail source or the manufacturing source of the product or service that they are, because no longer is merely just a name on a tag sufficient. It is necessary but not sufficient for someone to engage with and buy a product. And therefore, small retailers, if they can up the trust end, if they can look at the look and feel of their store, look at the hygiene, look at the layout, and build that sort of trust around the product, I think they would. It's not a nice to do anymore. It's a need to do in the government, and people will only start buying products that they can trust. We have to build that trust. So I see some of these as very large trends which are happening in the retail space, which will affect retail permanently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, one of the things when internet first came that was really apparent in the technology industry was that even a two-person garage entrepreneur could have a website as good as a large company, right? So nobody could tell that this was just two people, and that kind of equality can come here also. So Johnny, especially as Jamshed is talking about digitization, you have actually seen some changes in your business. So you want to tell a little bit about the impact of this on the small businesses?
So just going back to the statistics, you just mentioned about the 60 million. Of these 60 million, almost 95% are the micro enterprises. And if you look at micro, they employ the whole of 60 million employees, around 11 to 12 crores of people. And so you could estimate that each one would be employing two people. So you can imagine how small it is. And around 95% of these MSMEs are, which includes the small retailers also, are in the informal sector. So why are they in the informal sector is simply because for two reasons. One, uh, they still want to continue in that uh, in that situation, or they want to still continue as a micro enterprise. Second is because of the hassles of the regulatory difficulties. People don't want to grow. So in the last month, many of these things have changed, and the rules of the MSME has been changed. The turnover caps have been removed. The investment caps have been removed. So and also more of freedom has been given to them. So what I am trying to say that because of 95% of them are informal, many of the schemes which the government has announced, they are not able to get these schemes. So the first thing all these MSMEs and the small retailers should immediately do is to get into the digital payment system. Most of them have got into. They tried it during the demonetization time, but after a while they went back to the physical mode of payments and collection. Now they have again felt the difficulty, and they have most of them have moved to the digital uh, payment system. What would enable them, because they have moved into the digital payment system, is that since all of them do not maintain a financial, they don't maintain a financial bookkeeping. They don't have anything to show in case if they have to go for registration, if they have to go to a bank or to an NBFC, they have nothing to show. But with the digital payment system, when they are on the digital payment system, lot of information goes to the service provider, who will in turn provide much of this information to the intermediaries like NBFCs and banks, and then that would enable these enterprises to seek money from the mainstream. That would be the first level of formalization of these small businesses. So it's a right path they have taken. If they will continue in the digital payment system, I think most of them will move to the formal, and they'll start getting capital, working capital and funds from NBFCs and banks. And this should be the way, and we should be guiding them to continue even after COVID to be on the digital platform, so that most of their information would be there with the service provider, which will in turn enable them to borrow from the mainstream. And this will enable them, when they get turnover, when they get more of this information, they can move to the next step of registering themselves as a micro enterprise or nano enterprise. So this would be a trend, and they should continue. They should not stop what they did during the demon. Now it's the time they should continue with the digital payment system.
As we said, it's not a temporary thing. There's going to be a more permanent lifestyle
They
change.
have to
so we have
understand
to
that.
move. Yeah. And, we have a question from the audience from Harshit saying, my brother has seen a dip in store walk-ins due to COVID situation. His store caters to kids of all ages with toys, baby care products, clothes, etc. Request ideas to boost walk-ins and sales. So do you want to take it, Jamshed, and then I'll add my 2 cents?
Yeah, I think, from a store point of view, and I don't know what size of store it is, but assuming that it's in a neighborhood, I think there are two approaches that you can take. One is to make sure that we are communicating enough in the neighborhood that the store is a safe place to enter. And I think that's the first and immediate priority for anybody. And many stores, including small ones, are using digital apps for making sure that appointments are given so that there is no crowding in the store. Now, one is it helps in lack of crowding, but it also starts building faith in the store, saying that this store is serious about procedure. That's one part of it. And I don't know whether it is feasible in that environment, but I think the quicker technology is used to give customers the comfort that the store is safe, the better off. The second is that if the customer is not able to come to the store, you have to find ways and means of taking the store to the customer. And that is best done on a platform. And there are now local platforms which are available on which small retailers can go on to. These steps need to be taken because nobody is going to do it for you. I mean, the retailer will have to actually take these steps. But these facilities are available whereby uh, even small retailers can go on platforms, create their own little website, and actually start attracting customers to come there. And the third is, of course, to keep a continuous connection with their existing customers, providing them extra service, either through the website or through WhatsApp or through any other digital means, so that the customers don't feel the shortcoming of not being able to go to the store due to the environment. Now, kids is a vulnerable category. So obviously, people will take the least amount of risk when it comes to children. But some of these measures could actually mitigate the issue that you have at hand.
One of our mentors that we have on the platform is a company called Now Floats, and they actually help customers with retailers with very few steps to start your own presence online. So make it easy for you to start. And there are other companies like that also that are coming up. Instead of you doing all the work yourself, they do all the work. They do the promotion for you for a small fee or maybe a percentage of sales you generate, etc. So there are things out there, and actually on Restart India, they're there as a mentor.
Lakshmi, I just want to
Yeah,
add
Johnny.
something here. Just what Jamshed was saying.
Mhm.
Today, the digital marketing is not that expensive, and
Correct.
you could do it for very localized digital marketing. You could do you could geofence your target audience. For example, the query that has come now about a small shop catering to the kids. It could be digital marketing could be done to a select set of people who stay in and around that shop. So that is possible today.
Mhm. So continuing on that, the next question I was going to ask is about non-essential services. People like, for example, our store owner, it's not like food, but baby supplies is important enough, but it's non-essential. And this is even closer, there could be many other non-essential services. And what advice can we give to those who are in non-essential businesses?
See, I think this is tough. I mean, if you're in a non-essential business right now and customers are not really inclined uh, towards your product, there are 2 to 3 things that you need to do. First is you need to bring down all unnecessary expenditure to conserve cash. I mean, that's, to my mind, the most important short-term measure that you're putting. Now, this may be some hard decisions may need to be taken, but those decisions should be taken, even though they may not be very beneficial in the long run. But you need to survive to be there in the long run. And I think this is the first step that has to be taken. The second could be to see whether there is any way in which to pivot the business model a bit to enter into more essentials. Now, a classic case is what is happening in the sanitizer business, right? So anybody is now making sanitizers.
Yeah.
Now that is not because it's a fashion, but because their core businesses are getting stuck, and then they're pivoting that to something. So I'll give you an interesting statistic on sanitizers. The top 3 companies in India pre-COVID had 80% share of the sanitizer market. All of them have grown, but their share has only become 35%. So, which means that various other players have taken. Now everyone may not be in a position to get into sanitizers, but I'm just saying to look at what you're offering, to see whether you can modify that offering to make it a little more essential than otherwise. The third is that assuming that these two things don't happen, you have to find out what is so unique about your service. And it is that uniqueness that needs to be preserved and projected, because when things start back, people will start coming for that uniqueness and you need to be ready for it. So conserve the cash, try and pivot the business even for the short term to offer something essential. And a lot of people are doing that. So when the restaurants and all were shut, Swiggy, they were delivering biscuits. So, and they still deliver biscuits. So likewise, even for small retailers, they have to find another way of getting closer to the essentials, even if it means it's for short-term survival. And that's what I think we should be doing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so true because, for example, there are many people, I mean, all my VC friends, all my friends are talking to smaller businesses and they're saying, number one is cut all the costs, because that's the biggest thing you can do, so, continuing on that, I think technology adoption is something that we spoke about. And in what way can that help a nano retailer like a street food vendor, etc.? Now we are going from non-essential services to things that we did all the time across our neighborhoods, right? And now there is a lot of worry among people as to, hey, can I eat this or not? And so there's a lot of issues. So in what way can any kind of digital marketing to your hyper local way, in what way, maybe bringing a lot of hygiene into what you're doing, or how can we now help the real small nano street vendor?
Yeah, I think that there are certain aspects which have now become non-negotiable as far as customers are concerned. And hygiene is certainly one of them.
Yeah.
And quality of sourcing is certainly one of them. Now, unfortunately, most of the stuff that comes in, which is sold on carts and really small outlets, is unbranded, and therefore source traceability is a big issue. Somehow or the other, I think the market can start migrating towards packaging. And if we can help towards packaging of some of these commodities, it might become much easier for the front-end vendor to sell it. Because once you package something, there is an element of trust and an element of brand which is imposed on that product, which customers will buy. And I think that is one thing which will have to happen if the real small people have to survive. The other thing is, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other thing is that however small an outlet is, I think it needs to be modernized. And when I say modernized, I'm really not talking about anything fancy, but I think government and support systems and NGOs should now start working at very simple structures, physical structures, which enable that same vendor to project a totally different hygiene and sort of safety picture. See, it's like when you go abroad and you go to these vegetable markets.
Yeah.
There are also street markets. Yeah, like farmers. There are also street markets. I mean, let's face it. Like color of the skin could be different, but they're like any other farmer or any other vendor or any other vegetable seller. But when you look at that, you don't feel that there is a hygiene issue. And I think it is that little bit of training, the little bit of infra, and a little bit of support which can actually change the game and actually help them command a higher price.
Yeah.
But that is something which will have to be done, because if the world is changing and consumers are changing and you don't change, assistance can only take you so far.
Yeah.
And there are people who have changed. If you go to the markets today, you will find that one odd stall or one odd retailer who's done something different. He dresses differently or she dresses differently, they decorate it differently, the outlook is different, communication is different. And I think it has to become a practice. That's the way it is going to be.
And also in the West. Sorry, go ahead, Johnny.
So just to add to what Jamshed was saying, today, because of COVID, the hygiene standards across most of the countries, particularly the developing countries, is going to go up. And when the hygiene standards go up, it's a matter of development also. It's going to take you faster to a development. So, like what Jamshed was saying, you see a fruit vendor in a developed country and in India, you could see the difference. But once the hygiene standards improve, it's a matter of development that you are now moving faster to development than what you would have had pre-COVID. So this is again a new trend that would come in.
Yeah. And also, like, for example, in US, the food truck business has really like exploded. It's amazing. Just a small truck, extremely clean, and you can take it to different street corners and do work, And I mean, I've seen it in India also in small vendors do it. So I think there is a lot of room for innovative ideas there. And as you're saying, Jamshed, if the government can also, arrange for loans so you can buy the truck and all these kinds of things, there's a lot of possibilities. We have some audience questions. The first one is from Apurva. How can we as consumers support the retail businesses, as many of them are still not able to operate due to sporadic lockdowns?
Yeah, Uma, that's a very, very noble thought. And I'm glad that you asked this question. I think it's time that as individuals, we drop our individuality and look towards the benefit of our community. And we don't have to look beyond a kilometer radius of where we live. It's good enough to look at the micro community. And I think we should also, just as retailers are expected to have a one-to-one rapport with customers, I think we should also start developing a one-to-one rapport with the retailers around us. Recognizing the fact that maybe we are paying a bit higher for what we are buying, but there are advantages. We are buying stuff which is fresher. We are buying stuff which is not being sort of stocked in some go down for days or months. And I think we are helping our community and thereby helping ourselves. So sporadic lockdowns will, if there is no access, there is no access. But I think once the lockdowns get lifted, even temporarily, I think our first task has to be to prop up the local community. And I don't mean charity. I just mean buying our essentials and even non-essentials from people who care for us and who have been with us in our locality for years and years and years. They're part of our extended family. And if every pocket starts doing that, this what I call micro level prosperity will actually add up and move us forward. But this is the time for us to not look at every, sometimes the kind of savings that we crave for and therefore go to a larger store, etc., are very, very small, but they make a big impact to the person who we buy from. And I think we should really go all out of our way to support this community.
And post this lockdown and all that, we should promote people to spend a bit on non-essentials also.
Yeah.
That's very important.
And also, like, we have seen in our neighborhood, like there is this lady who sells fruit. So all my neighbors, we all go buy from her. While I go to the Nature's Basket probably to get the kind of salad dressing I want that's not available anywhere. But my fruit comes from this lady. She knows exactly what I want, and etc. So that building that relationship between us and the people who are local there, as you're talking, Jamshed, is very, very important, I think. There is another question from Abin Varghese. What resources are required to resume normal business operations after a major disruption to businesses, such as a major viral outbreak or pandemic? So he's saying, in what way, what are all the resources that are required by small businesses?
Yeah, I think John would be in a better position to answer this, but to my mind. So John, would you like to take it? Or?
Yeah.
I will, if he is not has been using technology, I would want him to start looking at technology for his payment system, because that is going to give him a lot of future mileage, and also technology for marketing, technology for delivery. All these are very important for him. These are resources I would suggest, but it's not just money. Money will come in case if he has got all these right. There will be capital chasing him. There will be people who give him finance to restart his business. But he has to get, now technology is going to be the key driver for all these small businesses.
I think in some way that if we can figure out a way in which we can help our local vendors to even adopt technology. I keep thinking that there are a bunch of high school kids who are sitting at home, can't go to school. There are college kids sitting at home, can't go to school. Can we get all of them to go to the neighbor small vendors and help them just get online? Can we teach things like that? So I think if each of us can think,
Lakshmi, the first step
in our neighborhood.
Lakshmi, the first step would be for them to get into a payment platform, that means getting into a wallet from a reputed service provider. That would give in the first step of it, because it needs not much effort. It's just a smartphone or something which you have to own, and it is very simple.
Yeah.
But the add-ons would be plenty for him, because the more you use to pay and to receive money on the wallet, more of his information is passed on by the service provider to the financial service providers, whether it is the NBFC or bank.
Lakshmi, one of the... Sorry, Lakshmi, carry on.
No. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
See, one of the things that I think is a big challenge in India, which you have rightly pointed out, and which I think through an intervention can be worked on, is that of digital literacy.
Right.
We have become digital users without being digitally literate necessarily.
Correct.
And I personally feel that a massive digital literacy drive amongst small and medium enterprises would actually change the face of the game. See, Indians we are all entrepreneurial in nature. They're all resilient. So nobody has a reluctance in that sense. But the question is, what do we do? Now, we have so many education platforms in the country, but they all focus towards degree education, higher education, vocational education, and educating. They're actually educating the educated, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps there is a need for us to create education platforms for getting small and medium enterprises truly into the digital economy without, of course, them having to spend too much money behind it. So there has to be a little bit of CSR in it and a little bit of commerce in it. But to my mind, that's the need of the hour. And it could start with, as John is rightly saying, get onto a wallet. Step one. Next month tutorial would be how to build a small micro website for whatever it is, Third month could be how to link the back-end supply chain, whatever it is. To my mind, this digital education could be a big step change in the adoption of technology that is now, as John says, non-negotiable.
Yeah. So we have another question. Sorry. We have a question from Piyush Tiwari of Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh. He's saying that he owns 18,000 square foot factory. Part of this factory can be used for food processing as a packaging unit. He's now in touch with local farmers for bulk packaging and marketing of local produce like millet, jaggery, wheat, chana, etc. So he's requesting some advice on how to get financing or source the right partnerships to go take this ahead, and especially for funding or advice or anything. So
John, would you take the funding part?
Yeah. So if he's a registered MSME, a lot of interventions have been announced by the government of India. So he would be eligible for that. If he is not registered, he may have to depend on a NBFC or a bank, and he should be able to produce his financials to get a loan. But at this point of time, it will be very difficult for us to comment what is the stage of his business and where is he in respect to his financials, so that whether he'll be eligible for a loan.
Yeah.
The funding.
There's a question from Nidhi Agarwal from Uttar Pradesh. She's saying, suggest any suitable professional courses to run her boutique more smoothly. And I think, again, to continue on this, even if it is I think so many things are available on YouTube now. If you just get on YouTube and learn, how do I start a digital payment system? How do I do digital marketing? I mean, all these small courses are available. I mean, that's one thing you could do, Nidhi, as to providing the courses, and maybe even like companies that go to people's home and provide services as well. So you can create a digital business to look into it. But I'd like to ask Johnny and Jamshed also, especially Jamshed, because you've been in the hotel and services business, any suggestions on in what way can Nidhi prepare herself better?
Yeah, so I am not sure what Nidhi's current problem is, because if she says more smoothly, that means but having said that, I think every business, the first question that every business has to ask itself is, what is it that I'm doing which is slightly unique and different? And to my mind, you need to work towards being clear as to why it is different. And once you are clear about that, the rest will actually follow. Now, I don't know whether this boutique is an apparel boutique or what kind of boutique it is.
A beautician or what, we don't know.
Yeah, is it a beautician or whatever it is? But whatever it is, that uniqueness factor has to be there, because what will happen is today customers have a lot of choice.
Yeah.
So if you're not having a uniqueness factor, it will be difficult. Now, if our issues are more towards management rather than getting customers, etc., obviously the solutions will be different.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So actually, they have an interesting question from Srinivasan saying, accelerating small businesses to adopt technology, does it pose a threat in terms of digital fraud, theft, considering limited knowledge? So it's about cybersecurity, etc. Like, how secure is it when they start doing things online? Johnny, any insights into this? And then I can talk a little.
I don't think he should, at this stage, be concerned about cyber because most of the platforms come with enough security. So I don't think that should be a concern.
And also, I think in India, compared to other countries, there is checks and balances also. Like, for example, if I spend, I get an OTP right away. I get a request for an OTP, and then I get a message right away saying, "Hey, you have spent such and such." And so, any transaction you make, there is enough checks and balances. I think that you will know in case there is a fraud. You will know much faster than just knowing about it later. And also, as Johnny is saying, I think most of the platforms at a very basic level have all measures built in them that it's not very easy to commit fraud. Of course, where there's technology, there is fraud. I mean, it's like if there's a knife, you can use it to cut vegetables or kill somebody. Anything of progress has plus and minus also, but I think there's a huge awareness about it. And I think businesses, people who are in the cyber payment business, etc., are very aware of it. And I think there's a lot of things put in place. So that's good. So we are very close to, we have only 3 minutes before we close. So what I thought is, if there are some more questions, we'll of course answer on our online, and we'll post everything online. So feel free to ask the questions. But since we have only 3 minutes, I want to use this to wrap up, to have Jamshed, you maybe say some parting words, and then Johnny, and then I'll wrap up.
Yeah, I think I personally always believe that for our country and our businesses, the future is promising. And the entrepreneurship on one side and the resilience on the other, which many of our businesses exhibit, will carry us through this crisis. That I have no doubt in my mind. Now, it may be tougher on some and not than compared to others, but I think it will definitely carry us through. But what I think it will also do is that there will be new windows of opportunity which will open up. And just as we are struggling to go through the crisis, it is also time to think of those new opportunities. One area of opportunity, as we've said, is the benefits of digitization. The second area of opportunity, I think, is the benefit of collaboration.
Yeah.
I think we have seen some very unlikely collaborations emerging during this. And I think we can carry it through in a much more systematic manner going forward. Now, there are, I live in a traditional area and we've got 50, 70, 100 retailers in my area, but they will never get together to do anything.
Yeah.
Now, nothing prevents them from doing so. You know what I mean? Nothing prevents them from declaring the Kolaba Shopping Festival.
Yeah.
So that spirit of collaboration will, I think, is a new norm in business, because everybody has seen that when things go wrong, we all suffer. But if we can get together, we can all make a huge difference. So I think that. And third is that the good part is that, when we use MSME and small businesses, we just look at what the conventional definition is. But our farmers are also in many ways small businesses.
Yeah.
And they have really responded to the crisis. And I think that engine, which has now suddenly woken up, is going to also give a tremendous boost to anything and everything that we are doing.
Yeah.
And this combination of factors is boding well for a bright future for our country.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that on the eve of our Independence Day, we are discussing this and ending on such a happy note.
Great. Johnny, on the eve of Independence Day and small businesses, what's your message?
I just want to sign off by saying that the nano, small, micro enterprises, the entrepreneurs should not fear to grow. They should not see, they should be bold and confident to see the growth, and also see technology as an enabler, and not something temporary that they have used now during this crisis. It should be the enabler that going forward, and they should use as much technology to start with immediately, whatever possible.
Yeah. I just want to wrap up by saying that I think on this Independence Day Eve, I think our country has been on an exponential growth really since 91, since we have opened up. It's been on an exponential growth, and every calamity is also an opportunity. And COVID has shown us that there is no distinction between rich and poor, tall and short, fair and dark. There is no difference whatsoever. If anything, this has brought an equal playing field, and this is an opportunity for everyone to reinvent themselves. And I think especially the nano small entrepreneurs that we have are more agile. They can change things much faster. So we at Restart India are very, very committed to accelerating the journeys of the nano small entrepreneurs. So please go to www.restartindia.in. If you have any questions, please post them. Read the answers to questions others have asked. That'll give you some insight. And we look forward to be your fellow journey partners so that we can make India and therefore a world a great place to live, work, and play. And we are with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
And happy Independence Day.
Same to you. Thank you.